Somebody scream!
Hey,
Down!
good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Dennis Byron Show. And yes, I know you guys haven't seen me in a minute. We've been around, but we just haven't been online. But I have a special guest joining me tonight, and this is a interview that I'm going to really enjoy because we don't talk a lot about politics, but this type of politics I want to talk about because it affects us. It affects us. And we have a sister in Los Angeles on the ground, making sure that she is holding the politicians accountable, especially in her district. And I want to bring her on because she's not only a friend to the show, but she's someone that is very in tune to what is happening in her community. And I think she can be an example of what others should do in their community. And Lila Brown has been a guest on the show, but this is an important time because not only has she interviewed someone else that is very well known uh, in uh, in the Los Angeles area, but she asked some very important questions that I think that is important for not only my audience to hear, but those people that are in leadership across the nation that represents people like us. But without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring on Miss Lila Brown. Lila, where are you, Lila? We got to bring you up. Okay, there you go. What's going on?
Hi. Hello, Dennis. It's been far too long. How are you?
I haven't seen you in a while, and people haven't seen me in a while. So this is
Oh,
interesting.
Grammys week, we ran into each other real quick.
Grammy.
And
Oh, that's right.
lost,
That's
we
right.
was
We
in
were
and out.
in and out, but we're doing our thing. So, Lila, like I said in my monologue, you are someone that people should really pay attention to because you are on the ground in Los Angeles, and you had the opportunity to catch up with the mayor of Los Angeles, Miss Karen Bass, and she's been in office for how long now? I don't know. She's been in like 6 months, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, as mayor of Los Angeles, the first woman to be mayor of our city and the second Black American to serve after Tom Bradley. But she has been in politics far much longer, spanning 3 or 4 decades at this point. Community activist, going on to the state assembly, and then a U.S. representative for her district, which that area includes a lot of South, what we call South LA, South Central LA back in the day. So yeah, she's amazing. It's almost approaching about 6 months, and we started the new year off extremely strong, and she hit the ground running. So I'm so excited about this mayor, as is the city. And then sometimes we do forget, being in this bubble, kind of like Atlanta has a bubble, that things are also happening outside of California that is just not in alignment with how we would do things. So I hope that she can set an example and other cities and community activists take note.
I want to
Thank
play
you
a
for having
clip.
me.
Yeah, I want to play a clip of the sound.
Well, I
Hold
think,
on. Here we go.
absolutely, if that is taking place, what I'm describing, though, I think is something different. To me, housing discrimination is I'm attempting to rent an apartment that's widely advertised as being vacant, but the minute I show up, all of a sudden it's filled, and if a white individual shows up, then the unit is still vacant. That's a different type of thing than what I'm describing. I'm describing bureaucratic hurdles that were unnecessary. That's what was self-inflicted. So since we set up the bureaucracy, we have the power to set that bureaucracy aside.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that clip and um what was the essence of the question
Sure.
and
Sure. So I asked her, so we had to clarify a few things because I've been following her since her inauguration. And she says certain things, and we're ready in LA. We're ready to go. And so I'm thinking one thing, and she clarified something for me. But for me, it was really to allude to the fact: do you think there should be legal remedies for housing discrimination? And even the more I learn about housing discrimination, segregation, redlining, gentrification, racial covenants is something that I don't think we talk enough about, because we think it's just social codes and community, initiatives, or they have every right to say who they want to live in their communities. You know, she didn't want to take it there, so I had to just get a yes or no answer. Should there be a legal remedy? Because sometimes people don't like the word reparations. Reparations is reparative and restorative justice. So it may be easier to say a legal remedy, which I think she was basically saying, if there is discrimination, it should be documented and reported. And that's the thing. We've become so desensitized to racism and desensitized to discrimination. So we just kind of like, oh, that's just the way it is, and we brush it off and we don't report it. So I really do appreciate that. I understand where she's coming from, because we can make all the complaints on social media, but if there's no evidence that you even filed a complaint, you have to leave a paper trail. So I guess she's not ready to go into that conversation. I don't think just yet. And just to give a background, before she even stepped foot into City Hall, on her first day, seriously, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris swore her in on Sunday, and Monday morning, when I say she hit the ground running, she went to the Emergency Operations Center, sounded the alarm, issued a declaration for a state of emergency against homelessness. And that was a very crucial time, as protections from COVID were expiring. So sounding that alarm, and everybody stopped and had to take notice, because someone's finally doing and saying something about homelessness, not just throwing money at the problem.
So the reparations question, I think that's a statewide more so than a local situation, whereas the homeless issue is something right in her back door. And I understand, I
I'll just say
understand.
this. Things are moving very quickly. We just set up, I believe it was last month, Los Angeles now has a reparation advisory commission. So yes, we have the California State Reparations Task Force, but we have a newly formed Civil Rights Department for Human Rights and Equity. But now we do. And so I hope, we can draw more attention to that.
Okay, so would this be the time for me to relocate to California so I can reap the benefits of the reparations, or should I wait a little while?
You know what? I believe we have something called Cal Matters out here, and I started sending my friends that I know have been here more than 10 years that grew up here. I sent them the reparations calculator. We have a reparations calculator. I put my numbers in, and how long you've lived in California will determine how much you get paid. For my friend that grew up in Oakland, she is due over $1 million already. I'm at 200,000. I've only been here about a decade. So I'm
Wait a
making
minute.
sure
So
that
that means I
I
only get
take care.
2,000.
You probably just made me like, thanks for coming. Here's some gas money.
Take your ass back to Atlanta, New York.
See you in about a few years. Pay some taxes in the state. But it is Mayor Bass has this, what she calls a whole of government approach. And you may have heard it in politics, but to see it in practice, it's a very beautiful thing. And I feel like I don't want to blow anyone's cover, but they're very open about it. We have Dr. Shirley Weber, and I want to explain this real quickly. So when Madam Vice President, our U.S. Senator Kamala Harris became Vice President, that left an opening for the U.S. Senate. So our governor promised us that he would appoint a Black woman for that position. And we got Alex Padilla, who was the Secretary of State, who moved up, but our Secretary of State is now Dr. Shirley Weber. And she's a sister, I like to call them sisters, and with roots in Arkansas. And she told us last weekend during the California State Convention held in Los Angeles, all the Democrats came together, California Democrats, and she said reparations has come to California. That was the headline. Reparations is coming to California. And she was alluding that once the California Reparations Task Force submits the changes, I say changes, but the proposal that they worked on, the recommendation for reparations, that she made it seem like as soon as it hits her desk, it's signed, it's approved, whatever, because, everyone's working together. So I've seen the state controller, Malia Cohen, who's a sister. We have Maxine Waters. We have Mia Bonta, who it is so interesting to watch. But Mia Bonta is also in the state assembly. She is married to our attorney general, who is Rob Bonta. And Rob Bonta, taking a seat that once belonged to Kamala Harris. So I'm watching all these players, and it's a beautiful thing. Also see U.S. Representative Barbara Lee throw her hat in the ring for the U.S. Senate, a seat that was formerly held by Dianne Feinstein, who is, well seasoned, and we thank her for her service. But the people in her area, her constituents, want someone that's a little bit more active and really can speak to their issues in a real solid way. Well, it's about time.
Right, it's about time, and it may be about time for a lot of people in the Senate and the Congress. And I think that there's a conversation about term limitations. I think that is a important conversation because you have some people sitting in there for 10, 15, 20 years. I think term limitations is important. Now,
we should see that with the Supreme Court first. We can take care of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Can we get Clarence Thomas? You know what I'm saying? Like, geez. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's the court is a lifetime appointment, and I think that I think the Congress and the Senate are important seats that should be, term limited. Now let's talk about the homeless issue and how she's approaching it. I know that, as I work in production in Los Angeles, we shoot downtown, and they have a high homeless population in Skid Row. When is that issue going to be attacked? Because I know there's over $1 billion being apportioned to address the issue. When is Skid Row going to be attacked, and what is the rollout plan?
Yeah, so the city just passed a budget under the proposal of Mayor Bass, $1.3 billion towards homelessness, not for low-income families, not for disadvantaged people, for homelessness. We're addressing chronic homelessness. And so while all this is happening, $250 million is also going towards a program we call Inside Safe, and that's, I think, is going to be the solution. That's going to be the process. So essentially, yes, I'm downtown. Sometimes you might even hear sirens in the background. LAPD.
I did hear one or two, right maybe there, a gunshot. So. I'm sorry.
a little pop here and there, pew, pew, pew. But seriously, Skid Row is very special. And so while all of this is happening, all these amazing things, then Skid Row Trust goes into receivership, meaning the buildings are just dilapidated. I think there's 29 buildings that are all part of Skid Row Housing Trust, and they're just not up to standards. And people are still living there in their slums, just flat out slums. So now that it's gone into receivership, the city will be moving to bring those buildings up to code and to make sure that, because think about it, if people are living there, because they just really have nowhere else to go, and the building could be falling apart, that's not safe either. They deserve to live. And this mayor believes Angelinos deserve to live with dignity and safety and knowing that they're going to be okay. Because when people don't know whether they're going to, have their next meal or if they're going to be okay, that's where panic comes into place. And a part of dealing with homelessness is also mental health and substance abuse. So that's something she's actually meeting with Health and Human Services Director today. So the feds are coming in. And that's one thing I do love about this mayor is that she's already brought in Ambassador Susan Rice for domestic policy. She's also brought in, there's now this U.S. National Council on Homelessness.
Susan Rice was part of the Obama administration.
So we got some of that going. Secretary Fudge, who is now over housing and urban development. I mean, I remember one time they brought in $60 million. So I was like, okay, so the city's giving 50 million, HUD is giving. I mean, it's just everybody is contributing. So to pass a budget of $1 billion going towards homelessness, and now everybody's seeing that money, they want to know where it's going. Inside Safe, I think, is a great way to look at what she's doing.
Is there a written plan that like citizens can go and look at, like like a chart or something, what this rollout schedule is? Because she can serve up to what, 4 years or 2 years as a mayor?
Four. Ooh,
Four,
what city is 2 years? Oh, goodness gracious. That's,
yeah.
I believe it's 4 years. I'm just really getting involved with LA politics. It was very
Well,
fun.
4 years.
Yeah. So yes. So the timeline. So this mayor has equipped us, we the media, with so much information, and it's a lot to get out. So I'm rolling it out on my website, ellabmediagroup.com. I'm including everything. Like, it's hard to edit out any of this because so much of the city budget is also going towards LAPD, which there's a shortage of officers, but we also did call for the defunding of police. So which one
Wait a
is
minute.
it?
Wait a minute. So I want to know what amount of money is going towards the police, and what capacity will that be for training? Is that for hiring more police? And yeah, that's a very important piece of the
I
puzzle
know
because
we get back to Skid Row, but that LAPD component for safety, and making sure that we have the resources to hire more police officers, which a lot of people I think is very tricky, but they're noting to train them for non-lethal and non-fatal, reactions to what's happening. And so first, making sure that the people are okay, and then also understanding or have more comprehension from police of how to deal with mental health issues. So that's what you see a lot of in Skid Row. Unfortunately, that's what I hear for myself on the streets of LA. But the shortage is about 9,000 officers, and that's about 2002 levels that are noting. We haven't had a police shortage, but it's very interesting. This is what happened. Things are happening good, and then back to business as normal. Patrisse Cullors, one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, had a family member that had a fatal encounter with police. And I believe it was that week time frame with this new mayor being ushered in where there was people dying in police custody, and there was these other incidences. And so even for Patrisse Cullors, it's a conundrum because she's calling for defunding the police, and then it hits home for her with a cousin, a family member. And so Patrisse is very close, very active in the LA community as well. And so this mayor has noted, we all know Patrisse, right? But we still need safety precautions in the city because, during COVID, we had a lot of smash and grabs downtown as well, especially in the Drury District. So which one is it? We need safety,
well,
but we just
well,
need policing that's effective.
when we talk about Patrisse Cullors, I believe I learned that she stepped down from the organization. She actually stepped down from Black Lives Matter because of some issues, that is surrounding the organization. Uh, for example, there's reporting that I think her brother's being paid $1.5 million to provide security for the. I don't know how. Have you had the opportunity to look into some of those issues?
Of course.
Because
Of course. We don't want to go too deep into how much I, get into the work of Patrisse Cullors, and I have Alicia Garza's book here as well. But Patrisse is still very much active. Her new agenda is defunding the police. She actually says to abolish the police. So I'm being very nice when we say defund the police. Some parties want to abolish.
that's not. I mean, let's be practical. The to the to abolish the police would be almost like leaving your jewelry store open for the robbers just to walk in and walk out. It's just. I mean, you need some type of public safety. You need that because people are not just going to innately decide they want to uh, protect their community. They're not going to just want to do that. So you have to have people that are designated to do that until more community gets involved with that. And maybe
Well,
that 1.5.
the areas, Dennis, where you see less policing, you see less violence overall. We know that our crime rates in certain communities go up because there's over policing. So this is one I just kind of like, I'm watching the interaction between the mayor and the chief of police. We had Michael Moore out here, and instead of just a full term for him being reappointed, I think they put him on a 2-year, so a half a term, and while he transitions out, because I don't think we can continue on with business as usual and the same players. But I do see a crackdown, LAPD. More people are talking about the police gangs. A lot of officers are going down, and these are individual cases. So hopefully we'll have some more news there in the coming, months or throughout her term as mayor. But it's very tricky. It's a tricky situation. And sometimes that may take, the White House and federal Justice Department to get involved. But right now, it's this is a very diverse city. You got a lot of different players. So I get all, we get the city news, we see the wire services, we see what's happening on a local level, and it's tricky, it's sticky.
So let's talk about your time there. And you spoke about it briefly, being in, leaving, uh, being out of Georgia for 10 years and being a resident of Los Angeles. And I commend you for that because you went from a less affordable city to reside into a more affordable city to reside in. And as they,
I went
I
from
mean, as they,
I went from a more an affordable city to a less affordable city. Is that what you're
right.
saying?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I said that. Okay. Yeah, so you're in a more less affordable city, and you've been able to obviously make it do what it do. Um, do you encourage others who that are in so places like Atlanta to take that leap of faith and go out there because you went out there you went out there 10 years ago and you didn't know if you're going to stay there that long, and especially being in how long were you in Atlanta? Most of your life, right?
So
Or
I've
Georgia.
always moved around my life. So I was probably in Georgia for probably 10 years. We'll say 2001, and I left about 2011. So 10
Okay.
years finishing high school and college, starting at Fort Valley, HBCU, finishing at Georgia State. And I don't know if you noticed, but I graduated in 2008, which was the height of the
Mhm.
recession. So we had
Right.
massive corporate layoffs. Coming out of college thinking you were going to get a job, you're insane. Atlanta is a great city for starting a business. It is really, really good. As a small Black-owned business, you're going to find other vendors. You're going to find clients. You're going to find people that need your services, and it's no big deal for people in Atlanta to hire, diverse suppliers, vendors. Your clients, partners will most likely be Black, African American, what have you, even African immigrants. People come from the Caribbean. People come from all over to go to school at the AUC. A lot of people stay. And Atlanta really is, the business community is super approachable. I used to be able to walk into, oh my gosh, any club on Auburn, anywhere on Peachtree, and you will meet the owner of the establishment, especially the restaurants, the club scene as well. And also at the upper echelons, you can really fit in with the country clubs out there, the business clubs. Before I even finished college, I was already working with the Atlanta Press Club, and we were doing things with the governors. Senators would come, Federal Reserve chairs would come, and I'd be like, again, yes, the only Black face in the room, maybe John Glenn. I don't know if you remember John Glenn, but John Glenn was, heavy out there. Kwanzaa Hall was in the first district. I mean, Atlanta was amazing. And then we were really determined to turn the state blue. And so
Right.
as I was leaving, it was teetering, but I still, kept my connections there, my family still there. And to see Georgia go from purple to blue in my lifetime is a blessing. And now I get to come out here and be a California Democrat. And I'll just say this: one time I was on Peachtree and somebody was doing voter registration, and I said, "Oh, I'm good. I'm a California Democrat." And this Georgia Democrat said, "Oh, take me to California with you. I want to be a California Democrat." And I'm just like, wow, it really is a blessing because we get things done. And now we have my sorority sister, our former U.S. Senator in the White House. And we'll see what happens. I'm really excited about what's to come with this party.
Have you
So.
have you do you have any thoughts about the candidates that have announced their run for presidency, Ron DeSantis as well as Donald Trump, and also South Carolina's um, Senator the brother's name, it, but he's a
Tim
South Carolina.
Scott?
Tim Scott. Tim Scott. Yes, Tim Scott. Do you have any thoughts about these three candidates that threw their name in, and if so, what are they?
So we'll start with DeSantis, and I want to remind my viewers as well, that Florida was the first slave state. All right, coming in from the Spanish. Okay, it was not a part of the 13 original colonies. So I think he's keeping in line with that. And then Georgia was the next state to break away from the 13 original colonies and even threatened war. So this is really, really deep. Okay, so this is just, bear with me here. So, Georgia was always that buffer zone. And then we go back real quick to the Habershams. Your governor, Brian Kemp, is a descendant of the Habershams, where the Habershams were very much important for instituting slavery in the newly formed United States. If we go back to the 1770s. So that's really, really deep. So that's Brian Kemp's family coming in from slave plantations involved with timber. But either way, Ron DeSantis and all the nicknames for him, he represents establishing, instituting, and maintaining Jim Crow, slavery. He's going to throw everything. And until we have some federal intervention, like, he's really poking at federal intervention. Trump will hopefully be in jail at that time. And I just want to remind people again, we had back in the 1860s, the assassination of a sitting U.S. president, and then the next party is in power. You get what I'm saying? There was no vice president. Now the vice president takes over. It was, all right, the vice president was the other opposing party. So if one party's candidate is, then the next party gets to be president, that's ridiculous. No one really dealt with the South. The South was always treated with kid gloves. We don't want to upset the South because of the economic value. So when you have that, I think DeSantis is that you got to put somebody up. And I don't think Republicans really want to invest in Trump again, because that was really scary. I thought you were going to ask me about our U.S. Senate seat, because I do want to say it is a toss-up for me with the U.S. Senate, because I really do like Adam Schiff. Like, Karen Bass is calling for Barbara
Are you talking
Lee.
about Shifty Shift?
Schiff, Adam Schiff, the great state of California, and he represents some area out here in Los Angeles. But I'm really looking at him, and I
I'm
really
just
like
kidding,
what he.
ladies and gentlemen. I'm just kidding. That was a name that Trump gave Adam Schiff.
Oh, really?
He
Horrible.
gives
I
names.
didn't see.
He gives names to everybody.
He's a
Mr.
bully.
Schiff.
But Tim Scott, real quick on Tim Scott, I am glad to see a Black Republican. I hope Tim Scott wins the party's nomination. If I had, so as a strategic Democrat, I would definitely donate to Tim Scott's campaign. That's the brother, right? That's the Black Republican, right? I would throw money at his campaign. I want him to be the front runner. I applaud the Black Republicans for putting him up there. And see you in November against President Biden and Madam Vice President Harris. And that's a very strong ticket. I think the Biden-Harris administration is doing an amazing job. And when people say, what are they doing for Black people? It's like, how much time you got? Do you really want to sit here and go through all these executive orders? You want to go through all the round tables, the discussions, bringing in, she just had a whole, I laughed. Madam Vice President Kamala Harris had a whole round table with Black business leaders, Black men, entrepreneurs. Then she has this Black maternity health week focusing on Black women and mortality rates when it comes to, pregnancies and healthcare. It's just all these things. We just can go down the line. The funding for HBCUs. I want to keep that going. I want to see where we're going with this. And the saying is, as goes California, so goes the nation. So if we submit this reparations package proposal to the White House, I think it has a more likelier chance of getting some federal attention. I don't want to speak too soon about how it's going to roll out, but I'm very confident in California, passing something to start issuing out reparations. And I hope we can move in with a sense of urgency, as this mayor has done with homelessness. And I just really want to say this about Inside Safe. I think it is genius, because in Los Angeles, we still haven't had our real spring, summer, and it's very cold outside. And with this mayor moving with a sense of urgency, it's like not another nanosecond should anyone have to sleep outside or on a bus or near the LA River, or a park. It's just, the city's just not friendly in that way. So getting people into some type of interim housing, whether that's motels and hotels. But I also saw something genius where they use shipping containers. You know how people have tiny homes? They're doing stackable shipping containers, and it was actually pretty nice. It was actually very, very well put together. And, what they're being able to put people into some type of temporary interim housing until they can figure out a more supportive, permanent solution. I just love all the details. So like I said, I can go on and on and on about the amazing programs, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because no one else is focusing on this. And Black-owned media and entertainment, the word is just not getting out about the amazing resources that are out there, such as renter protections and things like that. We just don't know. Like, people don't even think about they should be preparing to make their case to prove that they had ancestors on this continent in the 1800s. Why is that important? Because reparations is on the table. It's on the docket.
Define what is renters protection and how that plays into, because obviously that's not addressing homelessness, but it can lead to homelessness if the issue is not dealt with.
Preventing homelessness is the next item on the agenda. And so that'll probably be the next clip I roll out, because I just don't want to put it all out there and we not dissect what this mayor is doing. So preventing homelessness is the next round. So coming out of COVID, and then at the height of COVID, California is probably one of the safest places to be if you were a renter. Even though landlords, just like probably what you saw in Atlanta and DeKalb County, things like that, the landlords, the landowners, the property managers, they were like, people are taking advantage of the system. They just don't want to pay rent. They ain't affected by COVID. Everything's okay. We back outside. But people were still really hurting. Businesses were not reopening. And so at the same time, now you got to pay all this back rent. For some people, that was over $20,000 in back rent for a year and a half of not being able to even go to work. Businesses were shutting down. So we have to figure out a way to treat this with some compassion. And so issuing this state of emergency hopefully will put some, the moratorium is done. Like, I believe that expired in February, March, meaning you could not be evicted.
How long? February this year?
California, we spoiled. Yeah. I know y'all ended probably sometime in 2022.
It might end when it started.
It was like, y'all back outside. Yeah. And ours just ended this year, and there's still some protections, meaning if you cited any type of financial hardship due to COVID and you alerted your property managers, so they basically paid rent for those tenants and renters. They pay back rent. But now that the protection is gone, people are left with these bills, and how we're going to deal with that. And evicting people at a time where we're trying to solve homelessness and we're actually effectively getting people off the street, and then you don't want to serve. This mayor is projecting 4 to 5 times the rate if these eviction protections are lifted, and there's no way for renters to have some safety and security. 4 to 5 times the surge. So for every person you're taking off the street, 4 to 5 more people will be placed into homelessness because of eviction, and the city will not be able to meet its goals. And I'll say this. So President Biden wants to reduce homelessness by 25% throughout the nation.
Okay.
And Mayor Bass is saying you can do this in Los Angeles alone.
Okay.
You can cut down on the national deficit in that way just by curing homelessness in Los Angeles, 25%. So I love those. I'm like, okay, like bring it on. But I really hope more people look at what we're doing out here. First and foremost,
As
get
a
the people
model.
off the streets, get the
Right.
people out in a
And
safe.
that's the first step. You know, creating a model for other cities to emulate is the first step. And New York has a serious problem as well. And I use New York because I just left New York and I saw the plight in New York City. Besides the crime, obviously, and then we just lost Jordan Neely as a result of him crying out for help. And you know, we had he's presumed to be innocent, but a vigilante by the name of Daniel Penny took matters in his own hands, and you know, Mr. Jordan is no longer with us. But yeah, that's a problem. You know, this guy came on the subway. He was crying. He was hungry, and he didn't want to live. I mean, that had to be just an awful feeling. Just an awful feeling. You know.
See, that's why Mayor Bass out here is partnering with another historic first. Our CEO of Metro out here is Stephanie Wiggins. And people are sleeping on the trains and not waking up the next morning, sleeping overnight in train stations. They are saying they're finding bodies all the time.
Oh my God.
It's really bad. So working together to address the safety issues on our metro system, but then also realizing that there's available land. I'm getting so deep into our ordinances out here, but we have available land that metro has not, I guess hasn't been used yet. We could use that land for affordable housing. So you and I talked about this earlier about how the top 4 most populous cities in the United States are now mayored by Black Americans.
Right.
So we have Eric Adams with New York. We have Mayor Bass with Los Angeles. We have the brother out of Chicago taking over. Chicago still has a Black mayor after Lori Lightfoot. I believe his name is Brandon. Forgive me for not knowing his
And then you have Houston.
And then we have Houston with Mayor Sylvester Turner.
Right.
So I think, and the amazing thing, so all the African American mayors just met in DC some weeks ago, maybe about a month or 2 ago, and to know that they're all talking to one another is very assuring. It's reassuring to me to know that they're sharing notes. And then the Houston mayor, from what I hear, is really effective at dealing with homelessness and got his percentage down to 0, like totally cleared homelessness. And so from what I understand, he and Mayor Bass are also in communications, but they're all just speaking to one another. And that is really good to know because as a Black American, we have family and friends in so many other cities. You know, maybe that's our hometown. So I want to make sure that my people in other cities are taken care of as well.
Now we have another issue that obviously is we haven't spoke about, but the immigration issue where, for example, in New York had received over 65,000 immigrants that they had to find housing for, and that's crazy.
Where did they come from?
Not from America.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of Texas governor, Florida, right. They are sending a surge saying, since y'all want to deal with homelessness, then deal with these migrants.
Right.
Deal with these people.
The Democratic cities.
Send them to the Democratic cities. And guess what? They're dealing with it. And that's the amazing thing. You think you're spiting someone, but that's not a dignified way in how to handle people that could become future Americans. So I love what the Democrats are doing. And vote Democrat.
Well, hold on. No. I have a different opinion. No? I'll tell you why. We have to address charity begins at home. We must deal with the issues at home first. And, because you got an issue here that you want to put out this fire first. Then you got another fire that is going up and just blowing up. I mean, let's deal with the American issue is first. The American issue is dealing with
Americans. They're Central Americans. They're South Americans. Oh. Oh, borders. I know it's tricky, but the thing is, we do have the resources to deal with them. Literally, when I first moved to Los Angeles, that was very shocking that someone could literally just walk across the border and seemingly get benefits. Not sure if that was the case, but it seemed like they could just really walk over and get resources. But that's
Right.
okay, because guess what? I'm okay. I am okay. And I am doing well. And I'll say this, Atlanta. I love Atlanta. Land of my father. Forefathers even. When I saw that the median average household income for a Black family in Atlanta, Georgia was $29,000. And for the average white family, around $89,000 to maybe $96,000 in some cases, I have to ask the question, that is not what my social media is telling me. Everybody is balling. I really just kind of want to leave it there. Are we really in desperate need? Are we really in desperate need? When I see homelessness, I say yes. When they say we're only 9% of the city's population, but 40% of the homeless population, that we gotta address that. But right now, taking care of even low income families, they got resources. And so I hate to say this, but when other people come from other countries and they say, "Oh, you Americans are spoiled," what they mean is that their nations don't have resources, welfare, social programs. They don't have Social Security and Medicaid. They don't have food stamps. They don't have, general aid relief and, EBT cash. They don't have, someone that can help them with some type of housing, affordable housing and Section 8.
But
So we
I
have to
guess
take
that's
advantage of the resources we already have. But
I,
that's just
I,
my personal opinion.
no, I hear that. I hear that. But that's their infrastructure that they have to do to build. We've worked from the back from the backs of our people. We've built this nation to a point where these things are now available, but they have to fix their infrastructure. We need to be the benefactors of the work of our ancestors. We have to. If
You know what? I think in some cases we are. And I know that upsets a lot of people. And that's why I think that's the frustration with politics. Mind you, this in a place like Mississippi, they'll say Democrats ain't doing nothing for us, but don't realize that they have senators and a governor that is blocking funding. I had to really get off and away from the news, and I had to go in and tell my friends in Mississippi and even Missouri, my family and friends out there, no, you have renter's protection. It may be near expiring. I had people that went and looked and got their rent paid, got their utilities paid. It's just a matter of sharing information and resources. So I had people, oh wow, and I think the way they structured it is that the state couldn't deny funding. So a lot of times the Democrats are in office or in power and they're releasing resources, but then a federal judge may block funding that was supposed to go to Black farmers, for example. So people are not realizing, they're saying we have a Democrat White House, maybe even a majority of Democrats ruling the House and Senate at any given time, maybe even both chambers. But then they don't realize on a local level, a place like Jackson, Mississippi with a Democrat mayor, and they always have to point out to these Democrat cities, they forget you're still in a former slave state. I just call them slave states. I don't call them red states. I call them slave states, former slave states. So until people realize that there are resources available, and I think for sometimes we get into it, but then there's this stigma of being a welfare queen or you don't want any handouts from the government. I want all mines. I want full compensation and reparations. I want everything that's due to me. I want the free college. I want the, paying off the student loan debt. I want all of the above. That is the expectation. So that's where I honor my ancestors in saying your work will not be in vain. You fought, and some even died for the right to vote. You fought for these benefits and resources and desegregation of schools. We just wanted desegregation of the money. Instead of just giving us the economic integration, it was
Well,
more
which is
like
important.
social.
There are a lot of individuals who would like to start their own businesses. Uh, those resources should be made available for those who have good business plans and something that you know they can pay back to to the community once they develop. Last question before I go.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on a wealth tax?
Oh, that's not harsh enough where I'm going. I think there should be confiscation.
Not confiscation. Damn. Not confiscation. What about they're working, they made the money. Why you want to confiscate it after they made the money and they do well, confiscation.
There's this amazing show on HBO called The Gilded Age. And, it talks about the early stages of the Rockefeller wealth and the Astor wealth and, what became the Vanderbilts, right?
Right.
So I wanted to know, okay, that was in, the 1890s and early 1900s. What became of these people? And they got hit with that federal income tax, personal income tax. So I started to realize it's like the United States wants you to balloon. They want these businesses to grow, and they absolutely should hit them with,
Okay.
I think, start with a corporate tax.
Okay.
That's just me. I think that will pay for reparations because slavery built the American corporation system. Can we start with a reparation tax? Whatever we can do to just really close this racial wealth gap. So before we hit personal estates, which I think we should do, but we cannot hit personal wealth until you know for a fact that that person got their wealth from slavery or was a benefactor of genocide, acts of terrorism, and segregation. And that can be proven if you check into your genealogical records. Find
Well,
out the names of people that allegedly owned your ancestors.
well, let's deal with a corporation like, for example, Amazon. I saw a story today where Jeff Bezos and his fiance Sanchez rented a place for $600,000 a month. They're paying to rent a place.
That sounds
Amazon
like downtown Los Angeles. Okay.
600. That's 6,000. 600,000.
Oh, 600,000 a month.
Yes, that's what they're
That's
paying.
Oh, come on. Where are they? On an island?
The fact that they have that type of resources to rent anything for 600,000 a month. This is why I asked you about the wealth tax, and
It's absurd.
it's pretty lopsided.
Something needs to happen. Something needs to definitely happen there. People are talking about caps, CEO caps and things like that. But that's what capitalism is. And unfortunately, it is built off the exploitation of these laborers. So did they ever get that union? Did Starbucks ever get that union? Like,
No.
so you have, that's why I really do advocate for entrepreneurship. I really think that people, if you are a really good barista and you and your friends love that world, then start your own thing. So when people start to understand supply chain, you can go and set up some business between some Ethiopian coffee companies. And then that's where we have to ask our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, are you willing to do business? You always say, let's unite, let's be brothers and sisters, and let's unite. But are you really going to do exchanges with our businesses? Or are you going to always just defer to our government, which has excluded us? So economic exclusion is a whole other conversation. I hope we can, once California passes for the reparation task force, which is slated for next month, expect around Juneteenth or probably towards the end of the month, they're going to be submitting the proposals. They've done the study for reparations. I did ask Mayor Bass about that, but you're just going to have to wait and see her response in that way. And I think the way we approach reparations should be with respect for those that have put in the work, who have done the research. It is very hard reality when you learn and discover what they have done. Some things we think we know what they did. I don't think we really have even touched the tip of the iceberg just off of common knowledge. I think we all should take a look at our state books, legislature in the past to see in what ways were policies racialized and racially charged.
Well, Lila, I thank you, and I want people to go to your channel and check out the drop I don't know when you plan on dropping your interview, but check out the drop with the interview with Mayor Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. This has been a great conversation, a great build, and I've always enjoyed having you on the platform. And I would like to talk about with some of the pop culture stuff, but
Oh, you know I'm ready.
I already know.
Is this
But,
where we cut? All
but
right. get the LL going again.
yeah, yeah. Shout out to LL.
Let's do a rapid fire. Give me some more minutes, because Dennis, I got off of your program once as a guest, and you stayed on for a couple more hours. You was partying. I was like, so I can't come to the party. So we did the politics. Yay!
So next in the next less than 2 weeks, Tory Lanez will be sentenced in Los Angeles courtroom. You were first to appear in court for Hip Hop Inquirer. You was right there during preliminaries, and now the prosecution has submitted their recommendation. The defense, I don't know if they submitted their recommendation, but it's my belief, in my opinion, that Tory should at this point show some type of remorse if he expects to get any type of leniency from this judge. And I don't think that waiting to see what the results of his appeal is going to that's going to help him get a favorable outcome in the sentence, because he's facing up to 20 years. Right. So do you believe that him showing some type of remorse will go a long way with this judge at this point?
I think it would be nice to see. I feel like we're having a little bit of deja vu here. I think it would be very nice to see. And what has he shown us, Mr. Dennis Byron? He has shown us that he's not apologetic. He's feeding this ego. He's listening to the media. He's listening to the comment sections in some of our other friendly Black-owned media sites. He wants to feed the narrative, and he can't go down like no punk. That he's not going to apologize. I think that would be great. I think it would be helpful to the healing side of this, but I think the judge is just not having it. I don't know.
You don't
Judge's
think
discretion.
you don't think it's even him apologizing before sentencing? I've seen it happen in other cases.
Really?
Where the person took responsibility and really genuinely apologized to that person. I don't know if that's at this
What is the time frame? I know you're like the best when it comes to courtroom cases. What is it like? Is it like, should he be shown remorse before the appeal? Like, how would he express that?
Well, and that's the thing. That's the risk. But it's something. Here's another play that I think this defense could have done is if he took responsibility fully and said, "Listen, now he has to work with this, his legal team had to coordinate this with the prosecutor, but if he says to the prosecutor, can you recommend this amount, my client will take responsibility." They already got the win, so this is just bringing it home. Now the question is, if he waives his right to appeal, will they then consider less time? If he waives his right to appeal, he's not going to appeal this in the higher court. Can you agree to a 5-year sentence?
Oh, Dennis. Oh, hey, you need to be on the defense. I don't think they're thinking like that.
I think that's a play. They haven't,
and that's a good play. A wise, team would do that. Would probably recommend that. Would they probably do whatever it takes? But then that would change the narrative, and 5 years can go by quickly. And what will he have to come back to?
Well, hey, listen, at this point,
what kind of life will he have in 5 years? Megan Thee Stallion will probably be making some type of comeback. She'll be stronger as an artist, and that's something that she's gonna have to deal with all over again. And it just really damaged her career. So, has there been any punitive damages awarded? Because she's psychologically traumatized.
It hasn't gone civil yet, and we don't know if there's going to be a lawsuit filed after this case is fully adjudicated.
I think she said she's going to sit down for a while and kind of just heal, take some time to heal. And the narrative and the
I don't
burden
think she's
she's
sitting down too
carrying,
long. I don't think
huh?
the window for a rapper is not that wide. I don't think she's going to sit down too long. Maybe a couple
Well,
of months after sentencing, but she's going to get back in the studio.
she should, but what do we want to hear from her? Megan Thee Stallion, I love her, but I wrote this today in somebody's comment section. I said, this is, maybe I should say it. I said, this is the consequences for seducing super predators. And oh gosh, cut it. Who is she seducing? Who is she seducing with her lyrics? I think she needs to do a whole, this is my PR side coming in. She's going to need to sit down and do a whole rebranding. What are you telling our girls? Get the bag, glorifying sex work, just all these things, and interacting with men that engage in a certain lifestyle. Come on, we talking about dope boys, street guys, gang stars.
Right.
So she's got to really sit down and think about what does she want to convey when you are hanging out with the Madam Vice President for your Easter, for your Easter Monday or what have you. You're hanging out with dignitaries now. Like, what is the message you really want to give us? Because I think with Black femicide being an issue, a lot of Black women just don't want to hear those narratives anymore. I can't listen to hip hop anymore. And here I am on Hip Hop Inquired. But it's really tough to listen to hip hop. I got to go more like, more spiritual tunes, because people are people. We're having a shift in consciousness and spirituality. We want music that's more on a higher frequency. We want more instrumentals and drum percussions to the ancestors. We can meditate and smoke our herbal remedies and sage. That's the kind of stuff we want. At least that's what I want. And I can still enjoy a little bit of a little Yachty or somebody like that because he's super fun. But
Let's bring back old school hip hop. That's it.
I was say hip hop used to be fun. It used to be party. We talk about our issues. It wasn't glorifying it. So, and then, hey, we can bring in the hip hop and politics with an Ice Cube. I guess I got to ask you, how do you feel that, he's come from hibernation and now he wants to get back into politics and talking and discussing about what's good or isn't good for Black people? How do you feel about people like that?
I say that if you don't have a body of work in the community that will support your newfound platform, then I just think you're just doing it for clout. I mean, if you haven't, for example, Ice Cube's been around for a while. He should have a body of work that he can reference when he's talking about trying to take that position, because we see what he's done in music and film, but in his own, his basketball league. But what has he actually done in the community per se? I don't know. It's tricky. Like Kanye West talking about perhaps running for presidency. I don't think I want to see that. I think I unless you have a body
hip
of
hop inquirer, you don't want to see hip hop in the White House. Is exactly.
No. I want to see. I want to I want to see someone like a Chuck D in the White House.
KRS-One.
Senate. And then perhaps Kendrick Lamar as maybe a junior senator.
Oh God! But you know what, Mr.
Jay-Z.
Byron?
What about Jay-Z?
Jay-Z's getting involved with a lot of police reform, justice, reform.
Yeah, see, stuff like that. He's someone that I can say that's made an impact. Especially when it was dealing with police reform and helping not just the Philadelphia rapper. You know what I'm talking about, Philadelphia rapper.
Yeah, Meek Mill. But he's going a step further, like Jay-Z with the lyrics in hip hop. Should that be admissible in court? He's also just really, what he did in Kansas City, I had to, I'm not the biggest Jay-Z fan, but when he got involved with what's happening with Kansas City Police Department, what he did with Mississippi, and he has a whole justice reform organization.
He's someone that has the resources he has the money to run, and he has the backing of a lot of high people in high places.
You know, aside from all that, that's kind of external. And you know, I'm gonna say this again because I don't really care about the entertainment side, but he has the interest and he has the authenticity. And this doesn't come just from anyone. You're not gonna see a lot of rappers doing what Jay-Z does. Jay-Z's doing it because he actually cares, or at least he's giving us the impression that his brand cares, like
Right.
authentic. Like he has people on the ground, and like I wouldn't be saying that, and I'm not always privy to what goes on behind the scenes over at Rock Nation, but I'm saying aside from that and his philanthropic arm, he's doing a lot of amazing things that's helping
Yes.
black men. A black man helping black men. I
Right.
love to see that, and that's way more powerful than a short-term, mayor or senator. They all have to work together. So I want to see what if Jason's going to get involved with LA politics. They just had that $200 million home
Well, no, yeah,
off the coast.
yeah, that's a lot. But let's see what
Hey,
do Jay-Z support a wealth tax, especially in
I
light
want
of
to do
the
some
fact
more research on that because I'm all about corporate tax and for wealth. I just want to confiscate the wealth because easy come, easy go. This is how you took it. It needs to be because if you really look at the history of these United
be
States,
careful now.
wealth was confiscated
Mhm.
basis on race. So, well, I mean, literally, wealth was you cannot own this home, but this is my family. You shall not. And then, from what I understand, coming into people's homes, beating the head of household, chaining them up, and making them sign over the titles and deeds,
Yeah.
a
Oh yeah.
lot of which were allotted,
Oh yeah. No. 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 No.
land
No. No.
patents.
We need to trace that back and find out who has taken part in that. The ancestors, whoever it was. I don't care how far I go back. Yeah, we need to come back and get that. We need to get that.
It's still on the books, it's still on the records, and I've been checking into mines, and it's right there as clear as day. The land once belonged to my Indian land, even American Indian, Cherokee, and Muskogee land now being signed over. That's a whole nother conversation, but
Absolutely.
it's going to be a part of reparations. And so, right now, thank you for this opportunity because I'm breaking it down in little bitty things because when it all comes together, it's going to be just a flood of information, and we may not have time to do the fine details. So we have to talk about this today.
Absolutely. Well, Lila, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining. This has been a very great build. And please don't be a stranger.
I won't. Thank you so much for having me. And hello to your audience. Thank you so much for listening. And to my people, thank you for tuning in to Ella B Media Group on YouTube and also ellabmediagroup.com. I'm Lady Lila Brown. Thank you so much.
Melanated news you can use. I'm Dennis Byron. Peace. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great time to be able to enjoy someone like a Lila coming on the platform and sharing her knowledge, her research, and her resources. And it's not every day you can get someone like a Lila just to come in and s- you know share some of her exclusives. And that was definitely an exclusive. With that said, guys, we are out.